Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Benchmark, where we deep dive into the ideas, insights shaping advisors of tomorrow. I'm your host, Brad Kasper, and today we're kicking off a special series called AdvisorEdge, designed to help advisors grow smarter, not just harder. We all know that in a business built on trust, referrals are gold. But too often they feel random, a byproduct of luck instead of a deliberate, repeatable strategy. So today we're asking a simple question. What if referrals didn't have to be accidental? What if you could actually build a system that consistently fuels growth through connection? To help us unpack this topic, I'm joined by someone who's made a career helping advisors do just that. Sarah Weddle, the head of brand at Harbor Capital Advisors. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brad. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so Sarah, let's start with a little bit of your background. Now, obviously, you get to travel the country and have a lot of conversations with advisors and help them grow their practices. And I think it'd be helpful to start with who you are and a little bit of your backdrop.
So, like you said, I'm Sarah Weddle. I'm head of brand at Harbor Capital Advisors. I've been at Harbor now for just shy, I guess, of 4 years. Prior to that, my background was at marketing agencies. So Harbor is an asset manager. Before I was at agencies where I worked with a lot of different types of clients. More and more, they seem to be in the financial services industry and more RIAs, advisors of all types, but particularly RIAs, helping them, optimize what they were doing in terms of marketing. Advisors in particular, they don't have a lot of time for marketing. Or they use the time that they do have maybe on things that won't deliver the ROI that they want. So that was sort of where the sweet spot was, right? Like helping them figure out where to spend their time, and also to execute on those deliverables, at least in the agency environment, to get them what they needed. And then I joined Harbor. And at Harbor, I think aligns with a lot of my values as a marketer. I'm very relationship driven, both in the way that I do work, but also I think in the way that I think marketing should function, where I think marketing works best is when it's driven by relationships, which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about today in terms of referrals. But so Harbor really is relationship focused. Like we really do, as a collective organization, want to listen to advisors, partners, and say, what challenges are facing you today? How can we actually help solve them? I think that's one of Harbor's big differentiators, is that I think a lot of organizations probably say they listen, and maybe they do, but I don't think they truly take action to solve those problems. It's more lip service. We're here. We're very agile. We're built to move really quickly. We have this startup mindset ethos that we all sort of subscribe to, and we will build, we will buy, we will partner. We really will do what we can to help deliver for advisors. And I think what I'm doing at Harbor today, or part of what I'm doing at Harbor today, sort of stems from that idea of how can we help you solve your problems? Where can we lean in? Where do you need support? So part of what I work on at Harbor is our practice management program. I think a lot of firms have them. That part's not that unique. Ours is called the Catalyst. And it's really about, leaning into that. How can we help you solve things outside of what products can we sell you, or what sort of investment related services can we offer you? What else is there that you need support with? A lot of that has been around marketing. I don't find that surprising. Marketing and sales growth, they go hand in hand. And like I said, advisors don't have a lot of time for it. So we've tried to build out a program where we can help advisors with their marketing, and a lot of it does come back to referrals because, of course, a lot of them are focused on growth.
Well, I love that because I think so many advisors hear marketing and immediately picture the social media calendars or email blasts, things that feel forced or unnatural. You've said before that the most effective growth kind of comes from alignment, and I think I heard that in terms of why you aligned with Harbor and that relationship. But being really clear about who you are and who you serve. So as you meet with these advisors, what do you try to unpack first? I mean, where do you start with these programs?
So it's a good question, and it kind of depends. A lot of it does really start with that listening piece. What are you doing today with your marketing that doesn't really feel like it's working? Let's unpack that. Why is it not working? What seems like it could be done differently? A lot of them want to hear what other advisors are doing, what's working for them, what's not working for them, so they can take those experiences and kind of adjust for themselves on their own end. Um, but you will find a lot of them want to talk about social media. I think that's sort of a natural inclination today. How can I use social media to grow, particularly LinkedIn? So that is a huge topic that we talk about. And then referrals come up a lot. And I think no matter what sort of marketing channel or marketing tactic you're talking about, what I really try to reinforce is this concept of knowing your audience, because that's where I think all good marketing stems from. I'll probably end up saying it 50 different times throughout this conversation. I just said to somebody earlier today, it is the actual hill I think I will die on that good marketing, good sales, if you don't know your audience, like forget about it. It's not going to resonate. You're not going to achieve your goals. It doesn't matter what channel you're using. It doesn't matter what platform you're on. It doesn't matter what tactic. It's highly unlikely that it's going to convert, or at least not long term. It will not be
Yeah.
sustainable.
Yeah. So it's not about shouting louder, it's about being clearer.
Exactly, exactly. And what I find from talking to advisors is that this is actually really hard. And I think part of it is the time piece of it, right? Like you do have to step back and be very intentional about who am I trying to target? Who is that target audience? Okay, that's step one. Step two is what are their problems that they're facing? How can I provide value for them? And then everything you do after that needs to link back to that. Everything needs to be positioned with that person sort of top of mind. Advisors are really guilty of, and not to knock on them, I think a lot of companies in general are guilty of this. But a lot of advisors are guilty of sort of leading with like, these are the services that I offer. And I do a holistic financial planning, very sort of like generic, here's what I offer you versus, okay, you are the person that I am trying to reach. You are the best prospect or best client for me. How can I position what I sell or what I do in a way that's meaningful for you and shows you with very little effort that I can provide value for you? It it actually is hard, I think, because you have to slow down and be strategic about it. But once you establish that framework for everything that you do, that starting point, it becomes a lot easier over time.
Yeah, and it's so powerful, right? Because so many advisors try to sound like everyone else,
Yes.
and when everyone sounds the same, the differentiator becomes performance. But you can't outperform the market forever, right? You can, however, outperform on relationships, and it sounds like that's what you try to get at the root of.
Yeah, yeah. What's funny about that is when I was preparing for this conversation, I was thinking about why I like doing what I'm doing. And I think a lot of marketers would probably not be that interested in this industry because it feels a little bit mundane, a little bit generic, and we can blame compliance for that to a degree. We all do those regulatory regulatory things that stop us from saying exactly what we want to say or doing exactly what we want to do, right? But we sort of suffer across the board. Like it doesn't really matter if you're a fintech or an advisor or an asset manager. We all kind of have a sameness problem. We're very generic. A lot of the messaging is the same, word choice, tone, taglines, campaigns. So there's so much opportunity to make an impact simply by being strategic about how you position yourself, what your brand is, how you communicate your value proposition, how you communicate that you really understand the audience that you're talking to. Um,
Well,
it's
it's funny because earlier you used a buzzword for me, and it's holistic financial planning.
yeah,
Like I challenge what the hell does holistic financial planning even mean? And I would argue most advisors, they don't really have a clear definition of it, but they've heard it 50 other times from somebody else. And again, it's not that it's a bad message or thing to have, but I don't think there's real clarity because they don't really own what it means really.
yeah, yeah. And in my previous role, we did a lot of what we would call messaging and positioning exercises with advisors where you sit down and you really try to help them define like what is your value proposition? What are the key messages you can use? How are you different from your competitors? I did so many of them. And it so many advisors say the exact same things in those sessions, and you try to push on them and say, no, no, what makes you different? Okay, dig deeper into that. And they really struggle to do that. They struggle to figure out what is different beyond sort of those generic terms. So, I mean, that's where maybe like a marketing agency can be really helpful because they can help you sort of dig deeper and think past some of those um, things you might not even realize are a problem, to be honest. Uh,
Yeah.
but like that's where the impact will really come in, is figuring out how to set yourself apart in that way. And again, in a way that will very, very clearly communicate to the right clients, prospects, whomever, that you are what they need.
So I'll share a personal story. My wife is a therapist, right? And so a lot of what you're talking about is identifying your identity, right? And we work with our kids. We have two younger daughters, and my both daughters were big into soccer and they play sports. And my oldest, she goes, "Oh, I'm a soccer player. I want to be a professional. I want to do this." So we asked her the question. We said, "Okay, well, let's just say you got injured tomorrow. What else are you?" And she
Mm.
struggled for a minute. It was really kind of an eye opener, right? And I think translating it back to the advisors, if you were really forced into a corner and had to identify who you were, beyond just this little subset of something that you think you are because you show up at a job and sit at a desk and you look at certain markets and things moving every day, but do you really know your identity? So talk to us about the nuts and bolts of what you do, because you work with hundreds of advisors, and I would imagine this is probably the hardest part of your job, is really getting at the core of who the heck they are.
Yeah, it is really hard. And excuse me, it is really hard. And also, it's hard for companies like Harbor. That's my job at Harbor. A big part of my job, my team's job, is to figure out who we are and how we communicate that to our own clients and prospects, and how do we differentiate ourselves. And um, I've done it a lot, again, with a lot of different types of companies, a lot of advisors. It is a hard prospect. It can be, or a hard project, sorry. It can be very challenging because you're forced to think about things through a different lens and a different perspective, and kind of challenge the way that you might have typically talked about yourself, even. Um, and it's tricky. And so at Harbor, I wouldn't say we work with advisors a lot on the messaging and positioning piece, but we do talk to them a lot about the the value of knowing your audience and doing everything through that lens. And so, I might go and present somewhere about LinkedIn. I've done that a lot recently. And so there's a little bit of like, you should know the LinkedIn algorithm, right? There are a couple like pillars to the way the algorithm works that you should know if you want to be successful on LinkedIn. And then really what you need to know is, who are you talking to? What's your value? How do you communicate that really clearly? And that's how you're going to find success. It's really about like authenticity, showing up in a really genuine way, in a way that will connect with people, than it is about getting the algorithm right. And that's kind of true on any marketing channel. Like when it comes to email, let's say, you can have a great subject line. You could send the email at the exact right time of day according to best practices. But at the end of the day, if that email is not written in a way that will be compelling to that end recipient, it doesn't matter, right?
Right. So I was getting ready to shift gears, right? And the marketing world is changing fast. AI videos, the social media, the automation of is playing a bigger and bigger role. But you mentioned such a powerful word there, authenticity. How do you stay authentic when we are moving down this kind of technology path of marketing?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it kind of comes back again. This is a hill I'm going to die on. It comes back to knowing your audience, knowing your value, knowing those key messages, knowing your differentiators. Because if you truly can define those, like literally, if you have them written down in a place that you can reference them, then if you're using, say, ChatGPT, some other sort of AI tool, you can feed that into the tool, and then the outputs will automatically be better tailored to that. And then, of course, you have to have that human check piece in the process when you're using AI. So when you get that output, it's probably like 80% there, 85% of the way there, maybe even 90% of the way there, based on those inputs that you gave it, that you've already defined about your audience. But then with your human eye, you can say, that's not quite right. I know that my clients, that word really bugs them. They've said, what is holistic financial planning? Okay, I need to swap that out. Um, but again, it's like approaching everything with that sort of client first, prospect first, human first lens, um, where you're always thinking of how it's going to be received on the other end.
Right, and it's changing so quickly. I mean, even the format of this, right? This is the podcast that we are on now is at the core of what we try to represent as an educator or trying to bring good ideas to others that are out there. We value our community and the ability for advisors to connect and work together, and that's very much at the core of why we launched this entire Beyond the Benchmark. It's the idea that we're tired of just getting to this baseline of, hey, here's how we operate. And there was a time in this business where there's a lot more fun, and I think you nailed it when you said compliance kind of puts us down a path where our messaging has to be very narrowed. We have to be a little bit more thoughtful, and responsible is the word that comes to my mind with it. And I get it, right? Everyone wants to play it safe and be within the box. How do you get people that have been pushed down this path to break out of some of these, old notions of the ways that we think and create the separation or maybe the movement that they're looking for?
Yeah, it's hard. I think the biggest the biggest thing is that there has to be a willingness to want to do that, because you can talk. I talk to advisors again, like all the time lately about LinkedIn, right? And so I'll say, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. This is something I think would be really helpful or could be really helpful. And some advisors you just get and they'll say, well, I don't even want to be on LinkedIn. Okay. Okay. Why are we having this conversation? But then other ones you'll get and they'll say, well, I'm already doing that. And you're like, well, okay, you are sort of, but like let me describe it again. Like here is maybe how you could do it a little bit differently. And they don't quite hear that message. And when it comes to that sort of audience first frame of mind, a lot of advisors think that they're already doing it. So the roadblock really is getting them to recognize that what they're doing, unfortunately, is not that different. It's not that compelling, and it's not really speaking to that specific audience. It really is usually, typically, framed from a here's what I can do for you, here's who I am sort of lens. And it's really hard, I think, to see past that. Um, and again, that's not a knock on advisors. It's true across this industry. It's true across other industries. It's really challenging. And so I think you have to be willing to step back and say, you know what, let me rethink actually the foundation of the way that I'm doing business, because that's the way I look at branding and messaging. It's really the foundation from which everything should stem. Um, and so let's start there. Let me take a look and see if I optimize this, can it really change everything else for me? And I think the answer is yes, particularly in this industry where we are we suffer from that sameness complex, but also in this age of AI where everything is becoming much more generic. You need to find an authentic way to differentiate yourself and to stand out and to create relationships. And if you are speaking to people like they're human and like you understand them and that you know how you can help them, that's where you form a relationship. And that's what's going to lead to long-term sustainability and grow your business.
Yeah, and I will say, again, back my wife and I, we have a lot of these conversations, especially when it comes to AI. So in her practice, right, she's looking at how does she grow, and I said, well, you've got to start using some of the AI, and she is just adamant about staying away from it, right? She deals with people that are, asking AI about health advice or mental
Sure.
advice, and you're sitting here going, you've lost all connection with people in reality, and that's the problem. And what I tried to convey to her is AI can be a very powerful marketing tool, but at the end of the day, if it's not authentic information that's being input into AI, you're not going to get authenticity on the output of it. And so I think it's a powerful tool, but it needs to be wielded with some very thoughtful ideas going into it. But I think that would be a great use case. And in fact, what rolls through my mind, Sarah, is I'd love to get a case study going with you over maybe the next 12 months where we take an idea of maybe a couple of advisors and bring them in and help them with kind of a marketing message or challenging them and seeing if people would be open and willing to share their journey through it. Because what you're asking people to do is accept the idea of being different, and that
Mhm.
scares a lot of people, right? The guardrails are there for a reason, and so I think it'd be wonderful to kind of see what that journey would look like if we could get a few people that'd be open to it. So let's do something
Yeah,
fun here. This is what I'm going to turn this into, what we're going to call our rapid fire round. We're going to ask
sure.
some questions that I know you have not seen, and so this will be interesting to see how quickly you can
Okay.
come up with something. All right. So, question one, worst marketing advice you've ever heard.
Oh man, there's so much. The thing about marketing is everyone thinks that they can do it. Um, so you hear a lot of bad advice. And so in this current times, what I would say is let's go with social media. It's two things related to social media. The first is that you have to be on whatever the popular platform of a given time is. So like right now, people would say like, oh, why aren't you on TikTok? You've got to be on TikTok. And the second is, oh, this XYZ is going viral. Like we need to get in on that. We need to do something related to that. Like, oh, Taylor Swift just launched her new album. Like everybody's posting about it. Why aren't we posting about it? Um, great marketing is not
Are you
about,
just playing? Are you playing into the Kansas City ego here with the
yeah,
Taylor Swift comment? Yeah,
that's
good.
right.
Okay, you know your audience very well. Very good.
Right? Know your audience. Way to reiterate the theme here. Great marketing is not about chasing trends. You can be on the, again, hill I'm going to die on. You can be on the most popular platform, but if your target audience is not on that platform, if you don't know where they show up, it doesn't matter. You can go viral also, but if someone doesn't stick around to get to know you, if your message does not resonate with that audience, there is no point. At the end of the day, it really is about understanding your audience and showing up in a way that feels authentic to them. And then when you focus on that genuine connection instead of quick attention, that's when your message really will stick.
Very good. Next one. One thing advisors could do tomorrow to attract better clients.
This is an easy one. It's client segmentation, no contest. Again, talked to a lot of advisors this year. I think client segmentation seems to scare a lot of them, or building like a niche around a particular client segment seems to scare a lot of them. I think they think it's limiting their book of business or their potential to grow. But when you take the time to segment your clients or to focus on a particular niche type of client, you are able to create much clearer messaging. Your marketing becomes more intentional. Your ideal clients will start to recognize themselves in the story that you're telling. When you're trying to speak to everybody, you're connecting typically with nobody. So when you tailor that communication, your service model is tailored around that. When your content is tailored around that, you're going to attract those clients who truly, truly value what you do. And then they're going to tell other people about you. And that's how your growth can supercharge. Client segmentation.
Oh, I love that one. All right, here's another one. Favorite campaign or story from your career?
Interesting. Okay, so when I think about cool, fun, memorable things that I've done in my career, this is going to sound so cheesy, which is very counter to my personality. But I really value like collaboration, like I said, relationships. I think they matter. And so for me, it's like less about the campaigns or initiatives that I've worked on. It's more like the people that stick out in my memory. Like when I think back to stuff maybe that I've been really proud of, I remember the people that I was working with on those things and maybe the lessons that those people taught me or just like the partnership that I had with those people. We focus a lot on the work that we do and the outcomes. Um, but I think the relationships are what really endure.
That's brilliant. Last one. If referrals were a sport,
Oh,
what's the key to being a champion?
authenticity. The best,
Well, you
broken
can't steal
record.
mine. Yeah.
The best advisors know their audience, speak their language, genuinely care about the people that they serve. And so those people feel seen and understood, and they naturally want to share that with other people. Um, Authenticity is what can turn a good relationship into a pipeline of referrals. And I would add to that, consistency really matters too.
Yeah. Well, I love it, and we're at the top of our kind of 30-minute window here, and I'll kind of close with this again. If you're willing to come back, maybe for some future shows where maybe we can get a couple of case studies going, I think it would be helpful for advisors to continue to learn through an actual live case, and you know open some people up. And I know we have to expose them and maybe be a little bit vulnerable, but I think within that vulnerability is the opportunity to be authentic and to try to grow together. So Sarah, any final thoughts that you want to share with anybody?
No, I mean, I sounded like I was just beating the same drum the whole conversation, but I think that just shows how strongly I think that relationships, connection, um, brand messaging, value proposition, knowing your audience is really what it comes down to. And that I really think that there are a lot of great resources across this industry. Harbor's just one of them with our practice management program. And the more that you can find those relationships and collaborate with people and learn from other people, lean on those people, and then have the willingness to do things differently, that's where the outcomes are going to come from.
That's fantastic. That's such a great way to end it, right? Referrals aren't random. They're earned through trust, clarity, and creativity. Sarah, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for joining us and for everything Harbor is doing to support advisor growth in practical human ways. For everyone listening, remember, growth isn't about doing more. It's about connecting deeper. I'm Brad Kasper. Thanks for joining us on Beyond the Benchmark. This is the first series of AdvisorEdge. So Sarah, congratulations for being the first guest on our AdvisorEdge channel, which is going to be specifically focused on helping advisors grow their business and find more meaning in their practice.
Thanks,
So thank you,
Brad.
everyone. Thank you, guys.